And welcome to Down with the Browns. And welcome back to another episode of Down with the Browns. We've got some very important announcements to make on today's episode. We're excited to announce that we have a new co-host in Mac, the Buffalo Blank.
What's up?
Thanks,
What's
guys.
up, Mac?
Thanks, guys, for the opportunity again. I'm really excited to get to work.
Yes, sir. And we also have a very special guest today.
Very special.
And do you want to take that, Manny? We'll let you do it.
Absolutely. We have a very special guest today. We have the writer himself, the legend, Jeff Lloyd. Jeff, what's up? How are we doing?
We are doing good, guys. Obviously was hoping for, some more Browns news today, but, a lot of moves made today, but I don't think it's necessarily anything was really broke the Browns back as far as players that signed elsewhere. Typical, and they've been very active. So I guess maybe we all grew accustomed to the fact we thought the Browns would just be active out of the gate today because they were the first 2 years on the opening day of I'm just going to call it free agency. Illegal tampering just sounds stupid. I don't know. It sounds like some fancied up, what is that? The Carucci, what are those? The boards with the meat and the cheeses and the crackers.
Boards.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. No, it's a meat and cheese platter. Why can't we just call it something simple? So maybe we all got ourselves ahead of the game here. Thought maybe the Browns would be a little more active to this point. But again, as far as some of the prize of what is out there and what they're looking to do just through free agency, still attainable. So I mean, certainly a lot of players off the board, but I think the Browns, it didn't. Nothing has been crippled to this point, certainly.
Yeah, and Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, just give us some insight on you. Let's hear some stuff about you.
Well, I guess here, getting all this, I was doing content for about, as far long back, it was about 10 years ago. Then there was a period, about 6 years ago, my father-in-law was really ill at the time. At the time we had two young daughters. My daughters are teenagers now. And, my wife's parents were split. He wasn't in a relationship. So she wanted to be there, obviously, which was fine. So basically for me, though, it was, kind of putting a pause on stuff I wanted to do as opposed to stuff I had to do. So we went through all that process, he did eventually pass. And then about 6-7 months after that, the itch was still there. I still wanted to do this. At the time, Lockdown is certainly not where it was now. I had friends who hosted shows at Lockdown. I wanted to get back into it. Sat down with David Locke. Nobody wanted to. At the time, Lockdown Browns was vacant, and it was vacant for a while. Nobody wanted it. And, basically I came on with pitching the idea is, look, I've done, obviously, NFL is nothing new to me, but I've done draft coverage forever. And, talking draft coverage, and the team at, my first year was 0-16. I literally signed up for, a winless season. So we would cover how the Browns were going to lose this weekend. We covered how the Browns lost this weekend. And then we would do 3 shows during the week about the draft, and how to get the Browns out of being, everybody's, basically joke. And this would be, this was my 5th season. Obviously, my 5-year anniversary will be in September. It's just been a hell of a run. I mean, to see the network and, everything that's, come of it, through the hard work, obviously through the efforts of, for people who don't know, David Locke is the radio voice of the Utah Jazz. Mm-hmm. So he, obviously started his own podcast, covering the work he did, then opened it up to all the NBA teams, all the NFL teams, all the MLB teams, all the NHL teams, in most colleges. And, giving us this platform, giving this opportunity, a lot of hard work has been done. And, now we're at the point, where it's pretty successful. I mean, you look at iTunes top 200 on any given day, you find anywhere from, 5, depending on what time of the year it is, sport wise, or, what's big in sports, NFL draft, yada, yada, yada. You find, 5 of our shows to 20 of our shows in the top 200. So it's just been a hell of a ride. And, look, at the end of the day, we're all fans of something. Obviously, all of us are football fans. Everybody likes the Browns. As I said, I have a wife and 2 daughters. We're not sitting around talking about, whether or not Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to make a breakout in year 3. Those conversations don't happen in my house. So, but I want to have them. So I find some way to do it. And I've got this platform to do it. We do daily, anywhere from, 5 minimum per week. It's just a hell of a, just a hell of a ride. It's a lot of fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you guys got some great content on there. I love listening to you guys. And you guys.
Well, the thing is when you have a team as big as ours, there's a lot of times like you'll see something, and it may not be your team, but somehow it could reflect upon your team. Is we've got each other to look out for. Hey, does this possibly, say a coach? I mean, prime example, Kevin Stefanski, coach of the Cleveland Browns, but had a long history with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen's names come up. So I have somebody that literally works day in, day out on the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me what you think about Adam Thielen. Well, Adam Thielen getting a little bit injured, getting a little bit older, ain't worth the money he's making, So this way, we're able to work together. And I mean, the DM that we have for that group, I can't keep up with it. I mean, I don't even know if a 15-year-old kid could keep up with it because, I'll open it up and it's like, all right, am I going to track through 95 DMs in the last 15 minutes? What's the gist of this? Okay, we're good.
That's so true.
Yeah. And so let's just go ahead and dig right into some Browns news. The big headline that's happened for the Browns recently is the big trade for Amari Cooper.
Absolutely.
And honestly, it kind of took I'd say the NFL by surprise. Me and Manny, we've talked about getting Amari Cooper, and we didn't really feel like we would actually get him. It was kind of just like a dream. Okay, if we can actually get him. And I was thinking we were going to have to give a second round pick for him, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we'd have to actually give some capital, and then you get the reports, and it's for a fifth, and pretty much just for a fifth. And we swapped the sixth. So Mac, let's hear your point on that.
So, and the reason why it was such a low trade is because the Browns are taking on that $20 million. Now that's interesting for me just to see how the salary cap shakes up and affects them in free agency and the draft. It's just now obviously that resulted in Jarvis trying to seek a trade. Nobody wanted to eat his $16 million, so they ended up having to release him. But I don't know. I just kind of find it funny because everybody was shooting for Mike Williams or Chris Godwin and saying, and the argument was, oh well, the Browns are not going to pay somebody $20 million. Now they ended up doing that with Amari Cooper, but I do think that it's worth it. He's 27. I think he's going to be turning 28 in the season. Yep. He's an extremely good route runner. I would say probably top 10 in the NFL in getting separation. And that's one of the things that they needed to do with their wide receiver corps. So, you get a guy that can beat man coverage one-on-one. So I say he's worth money. Yeah,
absolutely. Extremely. Just to echo those statements, 4-time Pro Bowler. He is 6'1", 215. So he's a bigger bodied wide receiver in the weight and to height ratio. So I really like the route running ability, and that's something that a lot of people were talking about when it comes to Amari Cooper. So obviously being able to have a wide receiver who can be one-on-one and get open eventually during his route is something very, very important for the Browns, and will definitely help out Baker Mayfield. So I'm really excited. When he was with the Raiders, he was drafted 4th overall. So I like what I see out of Amari Cooper. I kind of like to have an older guy in the wide receiver room, especially if Jarvis is now gone, unfortunately. So it's going to be great to see his impact on the Browns offense this coming season. So really excited about that. Jeff, what do you think?
There was a couple of things that you see from this. And I had put out a tweet, Friday night. Obviously, the trade went down, I guess, around lunchtime on Saturday. And you were looking at it. All of a sudden, now the free agent wide receiver class, which looked like it was going to be pretty good, was drying up really quickly. Yes. Mike Williams had stayed. Chris Godwin obviously had gotten tagged. And the situation with Amari Cooper, and basically I said, look, this is one maybe the Browns probably just need to be in on. Look, you can adjust the money, and you can take $12 million right off of this deal and prorate it into a signing bonus if they choose to. So they have that option. But the thing was, and this is at the time, keep in mind, the compensation was 3rd or 4th round. So would the Kwesi pick be enough? Number 98, you had 106, you had 117. Could I get it done with one of those picks? And at this point, all right, sure. I was ready to commit to it. And it turned out it's pick 155, but here was the thing from the Cowboys end. I don't think anybody else obviously offered better than pick 155. They didn't. And I'll be honest, I think everybody would have been done at that point. I think the Cowboys, that was the best they were going to get. They would have released him. All right, we'll take pick 155. But the key for the Browns was by submitting the pick, they probably felt if Amari Cooper hits the open market, his success obviously was in Oakland, warmer weather, in a dome down in Dallas. Maybe Cleveland was not going to be, high on the radar. So maybe the Browns weren't going to be able to get him that route. So you committed to the trade to understand that you could secure the player. The money, obviously, they'll try to work on. But Amari looks like he's going to get to keep all of his 20 for at least this year, whichever way it's paid out, signing bonus, yada, yada, yada. But the Browns, and this is some things you get here. Amari Cooper is a quiet player. There's not a lot of talk about Amari Cooper. Yeah. But, you're talking about a player who has career highs of 92 receptions, career highs of 1,189 yards, career highs of 8 touchdowns twice. The production is there. The Browns needed this type of guy, and you guys brought up the route running. The thing with Amari Cooper is, and this kind of gets lost in the sauce with a lot of players in this league, is there's route running, and then there's mix one tapes. You know what I'm saying? Where it's street ball. And look, Odell does a lot of that. Stephon Diggs does a lot of that. Jarvis Landry does a lot of that. That doesn't really work so well with Baker. Right. If it offsets any of the tempo or the rhythm and when you're supposed to be in your spot, whether you're too early, whether you're too late, it creates issues. It's a fact. It just does. Amari Cooper, there's no special sauce to it. He runs the route like it's supposed to be run. And so that we get this big confusion over, what a great route runner is. Braxton Miller went down to the Senior Bowl years ago. Everybody, oh my God, look at the route running. Nah, he was juking dudes. Guess what? Did it translate to anything? No. Amari Cooper just runs the route the way it's supposed to be. Quick, strong, gets to where he needs to be. Are there little concerns? I did have some concerns. Like, he's always been an indoor player. It always seems like he's been a little bit better maybe on turf than maybe, outside. I think there was one today where if the temperature of the game is like less than 47 degrees, his yards per game, if it's outside, drops by like 25 yards. There are some concerns, but he's clean. He's quiet. He's going to come in, do his job. I'm sure he's well aware of this situation. Like, this is a weird one because you have a quarterback who's in his 5th year. There's no security there. But, for Amari Cooper, I go in there. I have a really good year. Maybe, guess what? Maybe either I re-sign with the Browns on a longer deal. Maybe me and the Browns rip the deal up. I go cash in one more time. And the other thing you got to love as far as anything Browns is concerned, the guy hasn't been on social media in 6 years. Jarvis, every time, hey, did you see this tweet? I don't know what it means. The sky is purple, this, that, and the other thing. Well, I don't know. Does that mean you want to leave? Are you unhappy? Like, who knows? And then you find out like 2 weeks later, it's like some obscure lyric from a song from like his best friend growing up who sings it out of his garage. He's quiet. He's going to do his job. The Browns did not have to give up much, but they did have to give up something because there is a strong fact that on the open market, if it came down to, was it going to be straight money, or would you get a team involved that was, better suited, better passing team, more established in their passing game? And it would have been tough to get him that way. But, it was a smart move by Andrew Berry because I don't know there was, if it went to basically, a straight fight where everybody had a fair chance, I don't know the Browns would have been, the one chosen, and you lose Jarvis. You've lost Odell. You needed to do something. You think you have something eventually growing Donovan Peoples-Jones. You still like what Anthony Schwartz can bring, but, you had to have a proven asset.
Yeah. And now, since free agency's actually started, that trade looks even like better in my eyes because I don't know if all the listeners know that Christian Kirk has signed a deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is a 4-year, $84 million deal with $72 million guaranteed.
Wow.
He is officially making $1 more million a year than Amari Cooper and has yet to have a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah. That says a lot about what's going on right now in the wide receiver market. And so if you want to look at it through that lens, it's actually not so bad of a deal that we got Amari Cooper for. So, it's something that is really surprising. And I just have a follow-up question, Jeff. Like, now that we have Amari Cooper on the team, is do you think that the chances are high for the Browns to look for a wide receiver 2 through free agency, or do you think that they will approach that through the draft? Is there a guy that, or would they, if they get a guy through free agency, do you think that they'll move down? What are some of your opinions on that moving forward?
Well, the thought process has been, and this is going back to the Senior Bowl, and people down there, this, that, and the other thing, was the Browns are going to be very active in the free agent market, and you have to kind of look at it this way: if you're in this situation with Baker Mayfield on the 5th year of his contract, and you obviously, the Browns don't know if he's the future, Baker doesn't know whether or not his future is in Cleveland. This could blow up in the Browns' face if Baker played his ass off this year. The Browns would be in a tough position where Baker now essentially would hold all the cards. But they wanted to go veteran wide receiver. You did not want to say, here's 3rd year Donovan Peoples-Jones, here's 2nd year Anthony Schwartz, here's Garrett Wilson, whatever you think about him, how great you think he may be, and then here's another wide receiver drafted in the top 75. So basically now you want this guy to basically play in his 5th year for his future. And for the Browns, look, you can't have another year where you don't make the playoffs. This has now become the expectation for this team, the way it's run. And say we're relying on a 3rd year wide receiver, a 2nd year wide receiver, and 2 rookies. You were putting yourself in a bad position by doing that. Mm-hmm. And, look, and Baker's shown he can play with wide receivers who don't have to be big names. Rashard Perriman, Rashard Higgins. He does not need those guys. So, Amari Cooper, certainly a bigger name, but seems like he's a little bit more, laid back and just, will let things come to him when his time comes. But they wanted to be big players. Cedric Wilson, the Christian Kirk deal, God bless him. And I don't know what Jacksonville's got going on down there. But I mean, look, the best part is for all these guys, make sure you get down to Florida. Make sure you become a resident of Florida. So you're getting that extra money they're paying you, and you're not paying state taxes as well. But Christian Kirk, the Browns had some interest. Once that number got, to this amount, we're good. We're good. Cedric Wilson going to Miami. That's one where I would have been like, because basically it's 3 years, $12 million is the guaranteed money. Mm-hmm. So Cedric Wilson, 3 years, $4 million per. That's not a terrible number. They're still nosing around. They apparently do have real interest in Allen Robinson, but maybe Allen Robinson could be looking at this as a 1 year. Look, 1 year. I get some good numbers. Baker balls out. I move on. Because obviously Allen Robinson was a very talented player in this league. Has kind of become a forgotten man here with what's going on with the Bears over the last couple of years. So it's interesting that way. I really think they're in on yet another free agent wide receiver. And again, keep in mind, there's working the class. I don't think the combine, I want to say, was disappointing. But, I think Olave, Wilson, it certainly cemented themselves higher than they needed to be. Wilson was not expected to run that number, so that certainly put him in a really, really good spot. Olave needed to confirm his speed. I don't know why people didn't think Chris Olave wasn't fast, but apparently they did not. They were all like, Garrett Wilson's definitely not fast, but maybe Olave is. No, they both crushed that. Treylon Burks didn't test like the athlete anybody thought he was going to be. The Browns just signed Taven Bryan. Taven Bryan ran a 7.123 cone. Treylon Burks ran a 7.28.
Wow.
At 70 pounds heavier.
Wow. That's nuts.
Look, that's a great athlete versus kind of a subpar athlete. With Burks, there's some theories, maybe playing overweight, maybe not, in best control of his physical. And if you notice, these guys wear these onesies at the 40. He kind of had like a little elbow hanging out over the hip a little bit. He didn't look like, you look like a guy who could probably weigh about 7-8 pounds less. Maybe it hurt him, maybe it didn't. But I think they're in a tough spot. And because Garrett Wilson most likely could go before pick 13. So if there's not a wide receiver you're truly in love with, and, again, you don't want to put a rookie in the spotlight. And maybe they're not ready. I mean, you look at the statistical production of, Donovan Peoples-Jones. It's gone up in year 2. But all of a sudden you're going to say now he's 80. He's going to catch 80 balls, and Anthony Schwartz, obviously a tough year with all the time he missed, but you just make it easier here. And if you can get in one more veteran, and at this point, I don't think it's going to be a very sexy name. Yeah. I think it's going to be somebody who's probably, has a repertoire as being a good blocker and gets, catches the balls that are thrown to him. But I think they wanted to get that room a little bit older. And you saw today, obviously, some messages from Anthony Schwartz, Donovan Peoples-Jones, talking about Jarvis Landry. And you see them all very excited about Odell Beckham Jr.'s success. Yeah. You needed, like a group leader in the room. And you certainly get that with Amari Cooper. And I think with somebody else is going to come in there as well.
Yeah, that's what I kind of think as well. What are your thoughts on that, Mac?
Well, it's just Allen Robinson is such an interesting wide receiver because he did well down in Jacksonville with Blake Bortles as his quarterback. I mean, he's that guy to where he came into the season and he had over the prior 3 years 51 red zone targets without a single drop.
Wow.
So he is this big body, kind of more possession jump ball, and he can create his own kind of way of separation. And he was a 1,000-yard receiver 2 years ago, and all of a sudden it just fell out of place for him last year. Between I want to say that he had like a nagging injury or two between that and just the atrocious Matt Nagy offense. I mean, it's like. He's just one of those, like Jeff said, he was just one of those forgotten guys. So, it's going to be interesting. I do think that he's going to command a little bit of money, probably too much for the Browns to reach. So yeah, I would say if they do sign somebody, it's going to be more or less on the cheaper side, kind of a low name guy, like Jeff was saying. I would say now, granted, with how the wide receiver market's been going, I do think that DJ Chark's going to command more than $10 million, just simply due to like the inflation of these deals. But I think DJ Chark would be more of a realistic signing than Robinson, just purely on money.
Yeah, yeah. I've been a huge guy on DJ Chark. I was kind of thinking that we might be able to get him in that same deal as like Miami got Cedric Wilson. But as you said, like where the numbers are starting to go up, you never know like who's going to offer him what just because of need. And like, okay, he's like one of the last good people. We need to go get him. But with him coming off the ankle injury, it's kind of a risk to go after him.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Very true. I think a lot of teams are anticipating that salary cap going up, so they're throwing out money, shelling out money to everybody for sure, whatever they need.
Yeah, and just going back to a wide receiver that the Browns, well, now he's a former Brown, and Jarvis Landry, he is officially hitting the market. Where is somewhere like you think like Jarvis may test the waters at?
So I think I like a couple of names, a couple of teams that shout out to me just right off the bat: the Bills, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. I think that he might follow in his footsteps of his best friend and just try to find a team that they can make a deep playoff run at. I would imagine if I were Jarvis Landry, I wouldn't mind taking a little bit of less money, going to a playoff team and a team that I know that I can potentially win a Super Bowl with. So Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, guys like that. And I think that they would like the fact that Jarvis is a cold weather wide receiver, has proven that he can still make some noise in colder weather. So I think those two teams are teams to watch out for, in my opinion, for sure. Mac, what do you think?
I think Kansas City really makes the most sense because if you look at Odell's situation, he benefited going to the LA Rams with Cooper, Higbee, and Jefferson kind of also sharing the field with him to get him open. So you look at Kansas City and you have a guy like Tyreek Hill that can stretch the field and Travis Kelce that can win those one-on-one matchups on third down or find the soft spot in the zone. And that's what Jarvis does the best. He's not going to be the fastest guy, but he can find almost that hole in the coverage, get himself open and catch the football. So I would just say Kansas City just based on overall fit. Now it's going to be interesting. I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to that $16 million a year that he was getting paid by Cleveland. So it's kind of going to be interesting how his contract plays out.
That's true. That's very true. And you've seen like McCole Hardman and then Pringle make a lot of catches for the Chiefs in some of those tough situations. So I'm sure that they would like to have Jarvis. So Jeff, what do you think about where you think Jarvis would end up?
Well, both the destinations you guys brought up, certainly make a ton of sense. But there's two ways you look at this for Jarvis Landry. What are you chasing right now? Are you chasing the highest amount of money, or are you chasing the best opportunity to win, advance? You never know. Obviously, every player's wired differently. There's a Jadavian Clowney who'll tell you straight to your face, whatever, I want the money, which is fine. I mean, God bless the guy for being honest,
Yeah.
But for Jarvis Landry, obviously coming off a ton of money here in his years in Cleveland. Obviously made some really, really good money. Whether or not, it matched production, that's been something, I've talked about, for a while, as far as Locked On Browns, because Jarvis has basically been the tenure of my show. Did he, you look at him statistically, you rank the people who make the most money, you rank them statistically. No, it never matched up. Was he a good guy? Did he show up? Did he do everything that was asked of him and then some? Did he even play hurt? Yes, he's literally just had his third surgery in a 14-month span. You know what the guy, will give to you, will give to the team, will, go the route. Where he wins, where he succeeds on the field, why Kansas City would be a nice matchup. Maybe why Buffalo would be a nice matchup. The problem the Browns have had in the passing game the last couple of years is lack of verticality, getting deep. Well, Jarvis was never the answer for that. But what was the answer? If we won vertically and players made big plays over the top, guess what? There's not people nosing all around Jarvis Landry as he's, peeking and popping in around the hash marks, in, out, doing his thing. Jarvis is, if I get 10 receptions, I'll get you 100 yards. I get 4 receptions, I might only get 37. He's kind of like a volume type of player. The more you can get him involved, but you needed the offense to succeed as a whole. You needed the passing game to succeed deep for him to be able to function in. And then you can start running all that gadget stuff that Jarvis was always great with. It's going to come down to it. Kansas City, Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, absolute track stars. He'd eat up some yards out there. There's no question about it. Buffalo, Josh Allen could throw it a country mile. Stephon Diggs, obviously we all saw Gabriel Davis in the playoffs. That would open things up for a player like Jarvis Landry. It's going to be about essentially what he wants. Or do you just look at the Jaguars, who, don't have much at wide receiver, brought in a player today in Christian Kirk, and Jarvis goes down there and says, sure, give me $9 million, 1 year. I'll play the slot for you. For Trevor Lawrence, you'll get this kid acclimated, going further on down the line. It's what it comes down to. It's tough. It's hard to tell what his preference is, but, you find him a home where maybe the team wouldn't be that successful and he could get paid. Jacksonville. Do you want to go chase a ring? Then you have teams like Kansas City, Buffalo, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one spot that I've seen that's kind of interesting on the Jarvis Landry.
Oh, one more too. And then the other things, don't rule out the Saints. Obviously, spend time at LSU.
Oh, wow.
And look, the Saints, I don't know how the Saints do it. I don't know if they have like a paper shredder or whatever, but every year we say, oh man, look at the Saints, $60 million over in cap space. A week later, signed so-and-so for 5 years, $355 million.
What?
Yeah, they're definitely
this.
Yeah, they're down for money.
If the NFL had an IRS, it would definitely be showing up at the Saints facility.
Yeah, they've definitely got to be printing money somehow, some way, because they've been in cap hell for like the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
They were still in cap hell when Drew Brees retired.
Yeah.
So like once his
well, no, they gave the money to Taysom Hill. That was the problem. All right, Taysom Hill. Here's $27 million to play 16 downs a game.
That was 16.
I'm surprised Michael Thomas took that restructure.
Tight end.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Thomas has missed 23 games over the last 2 years. You kind of, And the other thing is Michael Thomas is another guy who's not going to go play outside either.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Back to the Jarvis Landry thing. One team that I think that it could be attractive to him and they're interested in him is Green Bay. They're probably going to lose. I can't remember his name. I went blank on it, but he's probably gone. They're number
Randall
2.
Cobb, Alan Lazard, Vance Scout. They might lose a lot. You definitely bring up a good point. But go ahead.
Yeah, and they're definitely going to need that veteran presence. You can't just throw Devontae out there with no receivers that have proven themselves because they're going to triple team him. They're going to be like, okay, let's let these rookies prove it. So you need that veteran, and I could see him going there. And with Aaron Rodgers there, they're going to make a push for a ring. They're always in the playoffs, but
they got to figure out that contract.
But you go back to Manny's point. Mm-hmm. What was one of Jarvis Landry's best games this year? Christmas Day in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. So he's not afraid of the elements. He would go there. Obviously, I think playing with a player like Devontae Adams, that whole friendship thing between him and Odell, whatever anyone wants to call it, you go play with a guy like Devontae Adams who's crushing this league right now. I think you're going to get Jarvis, and there was never a question of want to with Jarvis Landry, but you haven't played with a player like that. I think you have, a guy who's going to be like, you know what? All right. I hope they triple team you, bro, because I am going to run the shit out of this route, and I pray they throw me the ball.
And Aaron Rodgers will get it to you for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And moving forward, the Browns, as you said earlier, the Browns have made a signing for a D tackle, and Taven Bryan, is that his last name?
Yeah, Taven Bryan. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've not really heard about him. Like, we announced that we signed him like a couple minutes before we started recording, and I started looking at his stats, and then Mac actually sent a video of him in a chat we have, and he straight up just blew Quentin Nelson. He just blew him up, man.
He stunned him with a punch and then just got around him, and he just looked like a turnstile. It was very, very uncharacteristic out of Nelson, but that's crazy that there's tape out there.
It's crazy, and he's a bigger guy. He's definitely. I know, Christian. I'll let you talk about a little bit of some of the stats and some of the things that they were looking for from him. I know he's. You were saying that he's a more of a pass rusher kind of guy, and he's 6'5", 291, and he's 26. And I think that that's something very typical of Andrew Berry. Just to give a guy, bring in somebody who's been playing a little bit and on a 1 year, 2 year deal kind of situation, and trying to bring in some other free agent D tackles. And I think that they'll probably address D tackle in the draft as well. But he's played all 16 games in 2018, 2019, 2020, and only missed 2 in 2021. So it kind of shows you a little bit durability, but again, and not really a stat sheet stuffer kind of guy, but just we haven't heard too much about him, so it's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, and one thing that's kind of mimics the pickup of last year of Malik McDowell. To me, it kind of feels like he was the higher pick, and he's just yet to prove himself. Like he's been in the game. It ain't like the Malik McDowell situation exactly, but
right.
It kind of mimics that as the early pick, as I just said. I don't know why I'm repeating myself. Anyways, but looking at I'm curious about him. I looked on PFF and I noticed on his grades, his pass rush was a 66.8, and his run defense, I think that's going to be the knocker on him, and it's rated at like a 44.4. Yeah,
it's definitely something to be a little bit concerned about, but it's like, you have Jordan Elliott, Sheldon Day, and Tommy Togiai. You're gonna in rotation. You gotta figure out what you want to do in that situation. But Jeff, what do you think about this kind of signing? I know it really wasn't a big name that made a splash, but is there anything that you think that the Browns are going to do further, or what do you think about this deal for 1 year?
Well, first thing, I agree with Christian. Obviously, I guess the best way to describe it would be the roads were certainly different for Malik McDowell and Taven Bryan. But you're talking about guys who are both elite athletes. Right. And this kind of seems to be something that the Browns like to do. And we talk about it all the time. Look, if you're going to take a gamble, you're going to take a scratch off, guy's a plus athlete, a literally ridiculously good athlete. The RAS system, my friend Kent Platty does 9.91. So at 6'5", 290 pounds and change, he was a 10% athlete. Wow. The elite of the elite. So you're going to gamble on that. The time in Jacksonville, look, he should have never been a first-round pick. Jacksonville drafted him on the fact that they thought there was going to be more out of him than he showed at Florida. They drafted him that high because, hey, the athletic testing shows it. Does it translate? He's, I can kind of describe it a little bit like Jack Conklin. Like when Jack Conklin's injured, he's not very good. Even if he plays and he's injured, he's not good. He's a really athletic player. He's just not this bull of the ring type of dude where if 5 guys come at him in a bar, he's going to walk out of there okay. He's just not. He's just not that type of. The fight just isn't there. That the technique isn't really there with a player like Taven Bryan. Right. But you have here, similar to what we're talking about with the wide receiver room, you have Jordan Elliott. We've seen 2 years of Jordan Elliott. Obviously, the Browns aren't totally intrigued yet with Jordan Elliott. Tommy Togiai is certainly one to watch for, but this is a position. Look, this Browns defense is really, really good. Myles Garrett, JOK, Phillips in the linebacker spot. Then you're bringing back your top 5 corners. You at least are bringing back John Johnson III and Grant Delpit at the safety position. You're good there. Yeah, but what happens if you have no D line and you can't stop the run? Nobody's ever going to throw on you anyway.
Yeah.
They won't have to. So you're going to have to do more here. One name I'm really stoked that's still available, Harrison Phillips from the Buffalo Bills. This guy specializes in playing run defense. That's a fingers crossed situation. And you would think the longer it goes, maybe it favors the Browns as people start spending more money, and that's where the Browns can jump in. And I also think the Browns, and now look, you're replacing the starting defensive tackles this year. We just did this 1 year ago. So I think the Browns definitely want to go established vet route because they're not drafting the best defensive tackles if Elliot has not taken this spot yet. Togiai was inactive a lot last year. So basically maybe you want to get some brand names in here and just say, okay, if Togiai and Elliot get better, that's fantastic. If Togiai eventually pushes somebody out the door, that's fantastic. Number one, they have 3 guys on the defensive line between edge and between defensive tackle who are roster locks right now. 3. And there's no way you're saying Jordan Elliott and Tommy Togiai are locked on this 53-man roster in September as starters.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to be done on the defensive line, and these wide receiver conversations are fantastic. But the defensive line is really the conversations that need to be had. Yeah. You're talking 6, 7 possibly needed on the defensive line. There's a lot that isn't there for the Browns on the defensive line. But look, it's a nice start, and it's a gamble. I know the contract, it was reported as 1 year, $5 million. I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of incentives in there. There's no way, in my opinion, it's 1 year, $5 million. My guess would be it's probably 1 year, 2.5, maybe 3 playing time, statistical production. There's no way the Browns just handed him $5 million. I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I wanted to give a quick shout out to Larry Ogunjobi for getting that 3-year, $40 million in Chicago.
Larry got paid.
He got paid.
I was like, man, I was thinking about bringing Larry back, but not for that.
Yeah. No, this is kind of what happened a little bit last year. You the Browns get in these situations where it's just like, okay, so about the future, and Cincinnati already offered a lot more money, and so the Browns, oh no, we're good, and but look, Larry's not going to fix the problem. Yeah. And Taven Bryan's not going to fix the problem. Where's the 320-pound hoss? Where's the guy? It's look, you can throw 2 people at me, throw the fullback at me. I'm not moving. Yeah. You can bring as much as you want. I may not make the play, right, but I'm not moving from my spot. Everybody else will be able to get around me, stop your ball carrier. That's the guy they need.
Yeah, and I think I just want to throw a name out there. I know that he's old, and I want to bounce this idea off for everybody. If everybody wants to throw it in the ground, I don't even care. But Calais Campbell, I know he's an older guy, and maybe it's because it's the 9-year-old Manny inside of me who would create a player on Madden and just make him this really tall guy. So and I'm just still attracted to that for some weird reason. But is Calais Campbell a little bit too old for you guys? Whoever wants to, or is he past his prime? Or what do you guys think about that?
Well, it's kind of really hard to look at a guy like Calais Campbell when DJ Jones is still available on the market. This guy's a lot younger, 27 years old. 2 forced fumbles last year, and he's only missed 8% of his tackles last year. And the big thing is struggling between the on the defensive line last year was the missed tackle percentage. Between both Malik's, they were roughly around 70 to 19% missed tackles. DJ Jones has only had 8% missed. He's very active with his hands. His pursuit is excellent, and he works down the line of scrimmage very well. So he would definitely be a guy that but again, you have to look at and assess the cap right now. And it's since gone down because they signed him for 1. So I'll take Jeff's words on it, $2.5 million. So we're looking at 8.5 cap room right now.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's just
Calais might
to
be on the Browns. He's I'm playing on the Ravens, and now you want me to just go on the
no, but you can clear that up quickly. Case Keenum can go. Obviously, that will quickly do it. The Amari Cooper thing that can be done. Even still, it seems weird that Mac Wilson's on the books for $2.5 million. So if you needed $2.5 million, you can make a million things certainly can be done in that avenue. The other thing with DJ Jones, obviously Joe Woods, there's a connection there, has played for him. The thing with Calais Campbell is, I think his, obviously long tenure in Denver, Pretty long tenure now in Baltimore, and close maybe to the point where am I really going to do this one more year? I don't know. We'll see. But are you going to go somewhere new? I mean, would you just say, hey, Baltimore, let's do it one more time? Would you look at Denver or a team more established down the road that looks like a better Super Bowl favorite and go that route? He certainly has won rings. So it's a question at that point. But, Calais Campbell's been a fantastic player in this league for a long, long time. I think one of the things that's always been underestimated about him is he's like one of the leading field goal extra point blockers that's like ever existed.
Oh, wow.
And it gets things that gets overlooked, but and for him, he's certainly not probably looking for a starter role. Who would pay me, a decent amount on a team that's got a shot where I don't have to play all the reps and, I can come in almost 100% because obviously, the tank is, getting kind of empty at that age.
Right. Very true.
Yeah. And I love Calais Campbell, but I just don't think that we can get him for a reasonable deal. And I don't know if he wants to stay inside the AFC North because from what I've read, he really respects the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't think he would just do that to them because of the respect there. But one guy that kind of intrigues me, I believe he just got released today, actually. His name is Eddie Goldman from the Bears. Nose tackle.
28 years old.
Yeah, he really intrigues me. I don't know deal-wise what we could get him for, but I feel like that would be a helping hand in the hole we need on the defensive line.
I think so too. I think you're right about that. So it's going to be interesting to see how much he's asking for and how much the Browns are willing to give him. But it's definitely, I like the experience there for 6 years, and it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate that situation for sure.
Eddie Goldman's more of a name that you're looking for. 6'3" and change, 6'4", 320 pounds. You get some productivity out of him. He's been a guy who's been obviously involved in the backfield, making plays there. There is some. I know he's got over like 15 career sacks. So not that he's going to be on the field. Obviously the Browns like to try to go as many defensive ends on the field as possible, later down, second and long, third and long. But that would be, there's certainly, a name that would be, okay, well, this is the one we're looking for. Basically, the guy who was hopefully can do what they all thought Andrew Billings was going to do.
Yeah. Andrew Billings. Andrew Billings.
That was bad.
Just pay me. Andrew Billings, just give me my check.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Do you think this is also another question that's popped in my head. I kind of want to, it's not really a D tackle, but I kind of want to see a little bit. Do you think that the Browns are going to utilize Porter Gustin more? I like Porter Gustin a lot.
Well, right now, Porter Gustin's in a tough spot. Right now, technically, he is free agent. He was up for like a tender type of thing. And I was one of the biggest fans of Porter Gustin when he got here at the time, brought in by John Dorsey. Former, again, similar, like you think about what we were just talking about here with Taven Bryan. Former 5-star athlete, incredible athlete, at USC, never really, found his way through the draft process when he was going through an injury. There were some questions at the time about Porter Gustin, the person. These things happen. His time here in Cleveland was good. For what he was asked to do. But the problem is you've got a 5-star athlete and you saw a flash once, then you saw a flash another couple of months. And it's more about, there's a reason a guy like Joe Jackson beat him out. The reason Joe Jackson beat him out is you put me on the field, I'm going to do the role you asked. Obviously, nothing was schemed for Joe Jackson to make a play, get your nose dirty. There's a pulling guard. You cannot let him outside of you, those type of things. Porter Gustin, I think part of it also is he was just moved around so much. Yeah. He played a lot of linebacker at USC. The Browns tried him as a D end. And it never really worked out for him, and this is the thing I kind of said, and why I think there's all these openings on the D line. You look at this draft class; there are a lot of pass rushers in this class. So if you can find a way to get whoever's going to be your starting base end with Myles Garrett, get that handled, and then Joe Jackson, he's already gone. You still have Curtis Weaver from Boise State. I was a champion for Curtis Weaver, but it's been 2 years now, son. Nothing's happened. Porter Gustin, we've seen this for 2.5 years now. Nothing's really come of it. Right. You know what? Let me go bank on some, bank on some youth, some better athletes. I love, the pick I had that they used on Cooper. I had pegged for Tyreek Smith out of Ohio State. I just like his get off. I think he kind of gives you a little bit of what Takk McKinley could give you as far as just being able to run and chase down quarterbacks. But they got a lot of work to do on this defensive line. And everyone wants to talk about quarterbacks. They want to talk about wide receivers. We got 3 defensive linemen right now. Yeah. I mean, granted, we still got free agents. We still got the draft. We got 3. 3. So this team plays a 4-3. We don't even have a starter. We only got 3.
Yeah, but we got to get rid of Baker Mayfield. Like it has to happen.
100%. We got to exactly. And go pay a quarterback twice the salary. Give up 3 first-round picks. Give up Greg Newsome. Give up Kareem Hunt. And guess what? They're going to go 4 and what is it? I don't even know what it gets. 4 and 13. Yeah. 4 and 13 to get to 17 now. And then everybody will be complaining about that. Well, why do we do this?
Yeah. I can't imagine why.
So Jeff, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Speaking for D-line. So with last year when they brought in Takk McKinley and they implemented this NASCAR package, right, to where they would have those 3 defensive ends on the field, do you see them getting there? Because I can imagine that Joe Woods wants to do this again. It was very successful rushing the passer last season. Do you think that they find their third guy through free agency with like Ingram or somebody like Justin Houston? Or do you think that they get their third defensive end from the draft?
Me personally, I'm going to go draft on the route.
Okay.
Because if they're looking this heavy at free agent wide receivers, what does it maybe tell you? That maybe they're looking to address their other biggest need, through the draft. Look, Takk McKinley was one that fell in their lap, and they were in love with him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, everybody knew the 2020 season, he was getting released like every 2 weeks from whatever team he was on. Browns put a claim in every week, but the problem with the Cleveland Browns is at the time they were good. So their claim was way down the line, and they never had an opportunity to get him. So like basically, they were like a kid, DMing this girl on Instagram, finally waiting. We got the free agency, and he was one of the first ones to sign, obviously. So they got Takk McKinley. But the reason, and this is another thing, when the Browns, I don't know if they necessarily view it as a NASCAR package, but what they view it is second and long, third and long. We want speed on the field. Why they like JOK? Why they like Jacob Phillips? Obviously, all the secondary players. Takk McKinley, Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett. Guess what? Unless your name's Lamar Jackson, I don't know if your quarterback's as fast as our defensive lineman. So guess what? Run around all day. We're going to eventually find a way to get you. Granted, obviously, the way this year worked out, it didn't have the effect they wanted it to. And I don't think it's on the defensive side of the ball at all. I don't think it is. I think the defensive side of the ball did all they could and more. I think more than half their games, they held their opponent under, 16 points or under. It was definitely on the other side of the ball that kind of dropped the ball and, didn't obviously produce the way it needed to for this to be a successful season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, with the Amari Cooper trade, I've got this weird feeling that we're not going to go receiver at 13 anymore. Because I feel like we're going to get us another one in free agency. And there's 2 players that are starting to catch my eye more and more. One is that George Karlaftis. I think he's the best edge in the draft. Absolutely. He's just got that fire in him.
Oh, yeah.
And another guy is Tyler. I have a trouble saying his last name. He's from Iowa.
Yeah, the center, yeah.
And I just don't think you can miss on those 2 players. Like, if you go either route, obviously, if we go Tyler out of Iowa, it's we've cut J.C. Treader, which has opened up probably close to $10 million in cap space, so that could go toward the edge. But what are you guys' thoughts on just another player other than receiver at 13?
So I mean, depending on who falls, like if like Ahmad Gardner, Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati falls to 13, I obviously there's a couple of guys, David Njoku from Michigan, I think, to be honest with you, I'm not gonna say Malik Willis 13, but I think to be in my mind,
Manny Cake had it.
Yeah. I can't. But I think honestly,
I'm sorry to tee that one up. I had to.
Yeah, Ali, you got to knock it out of the park. But I honestly, I really think maybe I think of if you have yourself a Sauce Gardner, I wouldn't mind a cornerback at 13. I know that we have an interesting DB room, honestly, very young, and I think you have the opportunity. I love Kyle Hamilton. There's no way he's falling to 13, but man, oh man, I talked about this kind of concept with you, Christian, before, like a young Legion of Boom kind of thing, where you have just DBs everywhere and they're flying all across the field. I think in a pass happy league, and obviously you have Joe Burrow to worry about, but we kind of we kind of have that a little bit under the control for for if you want to go off for past data. But so I think that's the route that I would go. I don't know about you guys. What do you think, Mac?
So interesting you bring up the center from Iowa. I mean, he was PFF's like highest grade interior lineman. And if it doesn't end up happening, I will take all of just the absolute roasting, but he is going to be an all-pro. He's the only 100% guarantee in this draft. I mean, usually the draft outside of a couple guys is a crapshoot anyway, but he is an absolute lock. Now the only thing that and Nick Harris played well against Kenny Clark in Green Bay. I mean, he has that kind of quickness to where he can excel in this outside zone scheme the Browns are currently running. And I'm not sure on him, but I also wouldn't take a center at 13. I would rather go edge. Now the guy from Purdue, I think he's probably, I don't know if he's going to be there at 13. So it's just, again, like you've been saying about who's going to fall to the Browns at 13.
Yeah.
Which is nice because you want to be in that position. You don't want to just overreach for a need. You'd rather just take the best player available.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you here. And the thing is, look, Nick Harris, and this is one thing that gets under, or just not spoken about enough, is Nick Harris has been the center every single day except game day. Like J.C. Treader does not practice. So Nick Harris is the center for this team every single day except for game day. That's the only time he's not. His one game against Green Bay, obviously he looked fantastic. PFF agreed. And the thing is, look, if this was just about, fine tuning and just finishing things up, then it would be, hey, you look at Lindenbaum, sure, maybe, but we're talking about there's still significant holes to be done. Right. Edge, and look, this was I tried to, if Jadeveon Clowney isn't coming back, which, and I don't know how that works. Look, Jadeveon Clowney may want more money, but look, this is team number 4 now, the Browns. So now he's looking for team number 5 to write yet another big check. I mean, God bless him if it works out, but I mean, there's only so many rungs you can go down before people are going to be like, well, yeah, we pay you, but if you get injured, we get. And it's always been this thing with Jadeveon Clowney. When he's not making the greatest money, he looks like a good value. When he's making really, really good money, he doesn't look like so much of a value. It's a tough spot. I'm not sure the door is necessarily closed just there yet on Jadeveon Clowney. Karlaftis, there's going to be reasons the Browns absolutely love him. He's not even 21 yet, right off the bat. He is a full range athlete. The dude was he was on like the Greek national team for water polo. And I don't know, I mean, dude, those dudes don't swim. Like nobody understands the difficulty. The guy is a world-class athlete. The other thing is he's still learning. He is still learning. The Browns like these guys. Cedric Wills, obviously. Greg Newsome, obviously. They like these guys who are really, really young and where the athleticism is starting to, turn into a great player on the field. And the other thing, I would rather teach you the habits you don't know than to break the bad habits that you have. That's why a guy like Karlaftis is very, very appealing. Could he be available at 15? Sure. I mean, you're talking Hutchinson. You're talking Thibodeau. You're talking, Ajabo, Adam. He's a tough one to read, but you're talking Karlaftis. Obviously, Walker from Georgia now has this run. So that right there is 5 names that could be viable as edge players in the top 13. Yeah, that's not too bad because there's a lot of hell of offensive tackles in this class that are really, really good too. I think for me right now, edge is the guy at 13. The only way it wouldn't be is if you come in with a solid player across from Miles, where maybe you could address it in the second round. But right now, it's got to be edge because I don't think you're going to spend 13 on a defensive tackle because this team wants their defensive tackles to stop the run. so they can get to second and long, third and long, get the big guys off the field, and get all the athletes on the field.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
But too bad we will not have pick 13 because it's going for we're trading Baker Mayfield and all these picks to dump our franchise into the toilet bowl once again.
It was confirmed in the spaces.
Is it confirmed in the spaces? So
100% yes. Well, if you guys want another good one, here's a great one. Because I normally have 22 masseuses as a $100 million athlete. And this is the part that frustrates me with this type of stuff. And look, I mean, if you want to say it's being used as a dating app, a hooking up app, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
World-class athletes who make hundreds of millions of dollars, they have a massage therapist. The massage therapist also prepares their meals. Right. They also make sure what's in your fridge. And guess what? No, you're allowed to drink one night of the week. Like this, there are people who you pay damn good, 100, if not more, $1,000 a year. Because your body is your temple. It is what makes you all your money. Yeah. And look, 22, even if something went wrong with one girl, it's not right. It's not. If something went too far and it shouldn't have. Look, we've all seen SVU. We know what the deal is. When something goes wrong, it went wrong. That's just the way it is. Yeah. And so after 4 years with Baker Mayfield, and granted, this regime didn't draft him. So if they have to move on after this year, they can. So it didn't work out with Baker, maybe, but you're going to gamble on this? I just none of it makes any sense in that regard. Look, you're going to let it play out. If Baker plays like Baker was capable in 2020, the Browns front office says, bet, because we can handle the rest. We'll get the talent in here. You tell me he's going to play like that, we're good. Baker plays better than expected. All of a sudden, the power shifts to him. And then becomes awkward times where now Baker's looking better than maybe the Browns front office. But the Browns front office ain't going to be upset about that. Really, they're not. Okay, well, let's see. We went to the AFC Championship game. No problem, kid. Here's the check. Put in the number.
Yeah. Win-win situation. We kind of talked about that situation before. I think Mac and Christian and I, we kind of talked about how much of a win-win it would be if Baker balls out in this situation. You know what I mean? Then it's a no-brainer for the Browns moving forward. And it shuts a lot of people up and you kind of move it. But if he plays poorly, I mean, hey, this was his prove-it year. So it's like, last year of the deal, you're on a team-friendly contract. So I think it's a win-win situation for the Browns for sure.
Yeah. And next year, if Baker's not the guy, you'll know by about, I'll say week 6, week 7. Yeah. Then we'll probably you'll start to see some players kind of pull off, and it'll be like some losing, I would say, would happen for a better draft pick. I'm not saying we're going to flat out tank or anything, but you know what I mean? Yeah, but sure. I think that if Andrew Berry has a guy in the draft next year, if Baker doesn't ball out, I mean, we're going to trade up, I would say, top 10, because this draft class next year is just really, really deep. Yeah. And, right now, this class is not as good as next year's at all.
Right.
Malik Willis probably wouldn't be in the first round in next year's
he's
draft.
still a gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still a gamble.
Himself. Very good point, Mac. Very good
because
point.
It's just that there's no quarterbacks in this draft class where and it's evident by two things. Number one, look at the record of the worst teams in the league. Nobody flat out tanked this year, which tells me that nobody's competing for that top quarterback. And number two, and Ben Albright was right about this, the hottest quarterback name in free agency this year was Mitch Trubisky. And why? Because all these quarterbacks that everybody said that were going to be traded, those teams ended up keeping them. This league will always be a QB starving league. This league is desperate for quarterback talent. So they will take those guys that are T-Seer, TD, and a lot of times they will overpay them. So, and those two things for me just tells me that there's really no sure thing in this quarterback class, and it's nothing more than outside of a gamble. Now, Malik Willis looks like a pretty good gamble, but again, you just don't know. We won't know till September.
Yeah,
that's funny because I remember during the season saying, "Show me the viable upgrade. Show me how this works." And they've done what they've done. They brought in every name they possibly could. look, there's a real chance Malik Willis is going to go 2 here. Detroit holds pick 32 and pick 34 and pick 2. You want to know what? If you're Detroit, take a shot here. If it doesn't work out, guess what? It doesn't matter. We're Detroit. Nothing was expected anyway. Players 32 and 34 turn out to be players. But yeah, look, Kenny Pickett, the age really isn't an issue at a quarterback. He's a nice player. But we in a normal year, Kenny Pickett would probably be talked about as a top of round 2 type of guy. It's just not there. Matt Corral, you like it, but I think there's going to be some games where Matt Corral is going to throw for 350 and 3 interceptions. And the reason he threw for 350 is because he threw 2 crucial interceptions and he kind of piggybacked later on to get those stats up right. It's just not the year. And like these teams, and like you said, look, it is a very, very quarterback-driven league. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if part of Tom Brady coming back was, I don't want to leave y'all like that. Yeah. Kyle Trask, who's going to come? I mean, Tom Brady, it wasn't just, like, oh, yeah, it must suck being home with your Victoria's Secret wife.
No.
I'm sure it's pretty good. I'm sure, because look, he can hire babysitters and still have time together. But I think it was more of, he was looking at players and friends and said, what are you guys going to do? Like, we won a Super Bowl. We were in the playoffs, and now you're all going to win 5 games? I think more of it was, the friendship and the respect, probably for the franchise, respect for the game that, maybe I need to be back here this year. And just, if it is just one last year, because, you didn't want to do that to some people that you had respect for and maybe that you cared for. And, I think a lot of that goes into it. Look, it was always going to be a weak quarterback year. Right. And, granted, you lost Ben, so that opened up one spot, obviously with Pittsburgh. And now you have a situation where, you got Haskins, Mitchell Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. So you got 2 first-round picks, and Kyle Rudolph, who was I think like a top 90 pick. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody knows whether or not the Steelers even have a quarterback on their roster. Because there are people still saying, oh, maybe they're going to draft somebody. So they have 2 first-round picks, a former top 90 pick, and they still might draft somebody?
Yeah.
That tells you that nobody knows anything as far as any of these quarterbacks that are presumed to be available.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. The only quarterback that I kind of like in this draft is Bailey Zappi out of Western Kentucky. I don't know if it's just the stats he put up, the records he broke, or if it's just he's from Kentucky. He plays in the state of Kentucky. I think that might be it more than anything. But
hey guys, real quick, Adam Schefter, the 2 teams that have expressed the most interest in former Browns wide receiver Jarvis Landry, Kansas City Chiefs and the New Orleans Saints.
What?
Let's go.
We get you. We call.
We look smart. We all look smart.
We really do. We really do.
I really want to know what goes on in that. Jeff, you brought this up, but I really want to know what goes on in that New Orleans building. Like, what kind of offshore accounts that they have to where they can just keep manipulating the cap like this. And I swear they've restructured almost everybody on their roster.
Yeah.
No, but this goes into the contracts. Like, even like if you guys saw some people the other day when the Amari Cooper made in year 1, the Browns don't have to do anything. They can just basically it's, hey, Amari Cooper, you're getting your check this way and this way. We're giving you half cash. We're giving you basically half in a check. Either way, you still get your money. But I now get $12 million more to play with on my cap space. The contracts are manipulated this way. Is the league ever going to do anything about it? Probably not, because they want their good teams to be great. There's no way around it, and the cap will continue to go up. It's just a simple way of playing around it. Like the years for the payroll tax in baseball. Well, this is the salary cap. Oh, screw you. I'm going to pay $257 million. Well, then you got to give us $5 million. That's great. I just spent $37 million extra. Here's your $5 million. Like, at this point, what do I care? It's, these are great things to talk about and great things to say that exist. But there's obviously a way to manipulate yourself around anything. And be honest, if you were a great player on a team and they were like, hey, so-and-so wants to come play with us, but I need to give you $3 million in a different form of check so we can get so-and-so. All right, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's like cheat. It's like, you and your old friends playing poker and understand that, somebody shows up with, 4 extra freaking face cards in their back pocket that they can slip into their hand whenever they need to.
So More For You Cleveland just tweeted. They said, according to Mary Kay Cabot, the Browns are no longer in on the Allen Robinson sweepstakes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to be really interesting.
It could be one of two things. Could be money. It could be money where the Browns weren't comfortable with the number. And like I said, look, this is one of the reasons you traded for Amari Cooper. It's looking at the situation and saying, you got a lame duck quarterback. Because look, whatever you think about Baker Mayfield, it's a deal. It's a lame duck. He's got no future with this team after this year. And, y'all just signed Amari Cooper. So, traded for Amari Cooper. So am I getting 100 targets? I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe the next thing you see is Allen Robinson signs with a team that's not very good, where it's hey, let me go get 120 targets, see if I can put up 80 for 1,000 again, and cash in.
Cash in next year for sure. It's gonna be very interesting how they move forward in that.
Which is funny that she reported that, but she's still trying to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I was telling Mac and Christian before the show, like I just thought about this. I don't think he hasn't played a home game in cold weather his entire life. He's from Gainesville, Georgia, then went to Clemson, then goes indoors to Houston. Like he hasn't and I just said, it's going to be crazy to see him waive his no trade clause to play in Cleveland, where his division rivals are outdoors.
When he was coming out during the draft, and there were questions. Now they did the velocity at the combine. They said it was a long season for him. He had a tired arm, probably shouldn't have thrown. But even still, you did throw, and it was 45 miles an hour. Baker Mayfield threw 58 the following year. So 45 miles an hour. Look, if that's the case, then don't throw. Don't throw, bro, because look, that number's out there. I consider Deshaun Watson a dart thrower. And look, I'm not knocking Deshaun Watson. His game, I'll talk about his game all day long. The boy can play. There is no way around that. But, what did we say? Well, if we have questions about his arm, what are we going to do? All right, so that rules out, 16 teams right away in the NFL?
Yeah.
What I said at the time, and it was shows that documented, put him in Houston. 8 games in a dome. I go to Indianapolis for a 9th game. Jacksonville's game number 10. Nashville, as long as it ain't late December, the weather's not going to be an issue there. There's your 11 out of 16 right off the bat.
Yeah.
No, I don't. And you went to the one game last year. It was a 10-7 ball game. It was a crappy weather. The Browns beat the Houston Texans 10-7. It was a crappy weather game. Deshaun Watson was 20 of 30 for 180. This is a guy. Talk about this defense from the Browns had that year. Andrew Sendejo in the secondary. They were playing practice squad guys at corner. Right. He went 20 of 30 for 180. Why? Because it was shit-ass weather and high winds.
Yeah.
Two things don't play if you ain't got the strongest arms. Baker didn't have a great day either. That's how bad the winds were, but it was so I'll tell you right now, he played that game and hey, would you ever play there? Hell
no.
I ain't going for 4,900 yards a year if I play there.
No. And that's why it's not surprising to me that he wants to go to the Saints, and the Saints play in a dome. So
or North Carolina, where the frigidness of frigidness is maybe 48.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cold in North Carolina. It might snow.
Yeah.
There's a light frost.
They don't have rock salt. They don't buy sand for the roads in North Carolina. If it snows, whatever, we'll shut down for 72 hours. It'll be 60 on Thursday. It'll be fine.
And then we'll play Atlanta in a dome and then Tampa Bay in Florida. So So very, amazing. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. And, I think this has been a very good episode.
Absolutely.
Jeff, we really do appreciate you hopping on with us. It's truly an honor.
Thank you
so much. No problem at all, guys.
Definitely.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get you back another time.
Don't know how to get in touch with me?
Oh, yeah.
No, look, this time of year, for me, look, I love the NFL draft process. I love the combine, all that stuff, Senior Bowl, all that stuff. But this is it, because now, we're getting some legitimacy. Now things are changing. All this stuff is talk up until this point. There are now players moving to different teams. Granted, to this point, I'm sure we'd all like a little bit more than Taven Bryan in the Browns holster, but But again, look, and going through it here and what's up to this point, I'm not seeing any names that I'm literally just. Ugh. Yeah. And look, the Bengals made a couple of moves with the offensive line today. They're good. Am I concerned? Nah, not so much. And like you guys said earlier, this is the one thing to this point. Joe Burrow is 0-3 against Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
So whatever everyone wants to make about what Cincinnati did this year, all the congratulations in the world to him. Comes down to one-on-one, mano-a-mano. I kind of like where my boys are at. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people scoff at that, and that's
like Joe Woods has Cincinnati's offense dialed in. I feel like he has that for them, and he kind of has it for the Baltimore Ravens as well. He's starting to get there with it. But yeah, it's been a great episode, boys, and go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Orange and brown, running the town. AFC champs, I'm loving the sound. Ready for steel, ready to rave, ready for fall, ready to bang. See us, we coming, we styling, we loud, we passing, we running, we touching it down. Cleveland the city, we good, we did it, we been through the gritty, we loving the Browns. Never will chill, never will lounge. We are the dogs, we are the hounds. Never the fans, we blew and we bleeding, so get on your feet, cause we are the Browns.